What we're referring to is the famous Arecibo message, which, among other things, happened to depict a human male standing next to a human female, and yes, in the historic style of the Garden of Eden, at least in its early days, they are depicted sans clothing, as in the original Arecibo message. As the abstract here notes, an updated binary-coded message has been developed for transmission to extraterrestrial intelligences in the Milky Way galaxy. The proposed message includes basic mathematical and physical concepts to establish a universal means of communication, followed by information on the biochemical composition of life on Earth, the solar system's time-stamped position in the Milky Way relative to known globular clusters, as well as digitized depictions of the solar system and Earth's surface. The abstract also relates, rather unsensationally, I might add, that the message concludes with digitized images of the human form, along with an invitation for any receiving intelligences to respond. Now, based on the way that Kron was reporting this, you might have thought that NASA was attempting to invite aliens to come down and visit a nudist colony. That's not quite the case. In fact, this is, in itself, a rather historic message, and here again I'll note the placement of the appearance of these two all-natural human forms. This is after we send along mathematical and physical concepts which are intent on establishing a universal means of communication. So the first thing we're trying to do is tell them, hey, we can potentially speak a language that you might understand. We may share a few things in common. Here's a little about, biochemically and otherwise, what happens down here on our little mud ball. Where we are in our solar system, we'd like to know about yours. Oh, and as an afterthought, here's a general idea of what we look like. But I guess wording it like that just isn't sensational enough to get those clicks. Is it, ladies and gents? Then again, maybe I'm just nitpicking. Maybe that's the editor in me, right? Or maybe just the critic, or very likely even the curmudgeon within yours truly. But on the note of the critical and the curmudgeonly, I was, of course, drawn to these headlines in recent days, and some of you guys sent this to me via email. By the way, you can do that if you come across a story that you'd like to share with me. info@micahhanks.com is the best email. But indeed, a few of you had sent along this story about the so-called best photograph of a UFO ever taken. I also saw it trending over on Twitter over the weekend. And what this essentially entails is a photograph that's actually many years old. We have the ever-reliable Daily Star reporting on this, where they note a new high-resolution print of what has been called the most convincing UFO photo ever has been released 50 years after it was first taken. Did I say just a few years? I meant half a century. And yet it's still making headlines. Now, for a bit of background, the story behind this photograph is fairly well known in UFO circles. It involves a man by the name of Sergio Loaiza, and he had been flying a very special aircraft over Costa Rica that had been fitted with a 100-pound map-making camera. And of course, you should keep in mind this was back in the day when, instead of just using satellites to capture images of every portion of the exterior of our planet, as we do today, people still relied on high-altitude aircraft equipped with very sensitive, high-quality cameras, and film cameras no less, to obtain similar aerial imagery of the Earth for map-making. And so Sergio was flying along on the date in question,